Kerry is a remarkable author, speaker, advocate, and I feel like he's one of the bright shining lights in, yeah, let's have him come in. Have him join us here, Draven. Kerry, can you hear me? I'm just going to keep talking about him because I do think he's one of the bright shining lights in the autism. There he is, but you're on your side. Can we possibly flip you? Look at you with your beanie, looking all cute. Can you, I think that you can hear me, but can you undo your mic so that we can hear you? We might just have to have him sideways, but then I'll turn. Hi, Kerry. There you are. I can't hear you yet. So we're going to work on that for a second, but I'm going to keep talking about you and how fabulous. So Kerry has written several books, and I'm telling you, if you are looking for something to do, hey!
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, but I'm getting a little bit of echo. So we're going to work on that for a second, but I'm going to keep talking. Oh, somewhere on your computer, you're playing the live show. So you just need to stop wherever that is. That's why I'm getting a little bit of a lag.
Oh, perfect. Is this better?
It's so much better. Look at how cute you are in your beanie, Kerry. Look at you. Excuse me, Dr. Magro.
Yes. As of last May. May.
I think that's the last time you were on the show. And it was like I think it was the first day that you had actually had your degree conferred upon you. And so I think we were the first one to be able to call you Dr. Magro, but it's still new to me, yes. Relatively.
It's new to me as well. It's new to me as well, but it's been quite a year. Hitting the 1-year anniversary next month of once I graduated. So it's still surreal to me, and it's just it's been an incredible year.
Kerry, we love you. I was just saying, you're just such a bright light in the autism community. You're always a positive influence. You are such a role model for so many of our young people. And I think you give so many parents so much hope. The first time that you were ever on the show, I was saying that I think you were a junior or a senior getting ready to graduate from college. And you were so well spoken. And you were like, I don't know, peanut butter and butter pecan ice cream mixed together. You were just luscious. And that we all couldn't stop talking about you for the longest time. We were like, this young man. And, I prefer to let you tell your story about, how you came to be in the autism community. So tell your story, and then we're going to get the update on how you're working for HBO and working on Mrs. Fletcher and all the things you got going on. But tell your story. I'm gonna drop my camera out so people can see you better.
Oh yeah. So I have had the most amazing time, obviously, over the years, getting to know Shannon and autism-live. But I was diagnosed with autism when I was 4. So I was diagnosed in 1992 when the numbers of autism were 1 in 1,000 in the United States. Today, autism is the fastest growing developmental disability. And I found from a very, very early age, when I was about 11, that I was on the autism spectrum. And it was very life-changing for me to learn about my autism diagnosis. And once I got to college, I went to Seton Hall University with sport management in mind, in the hopes of joining the sports world. Sports has always been one of my unique key interests growing up on the spectrum, but I realized there was such a need to talk about autism and disability in our community, so I changed career paths. So for the past 9 years, I've been a professionally certified speaker with the National Speakers Association, getting to travel across the globe, hitting the decade mark since I first became accredited, of getting the opportunity to speak around the country on autism, disability, and inclusion, and so many more topics, and getting to meet some amazing people, getting to work with amazing autism organizations like the Autism Society of America and the National Autism Association. And it's just been quite a journey, getting to write several books, and then also getting to work in our entertainment industry to make sure we're bringing a realistic portrayal of disability to our entertainment industry. But it was a lot of work. I love what you said about It's really a marathon. It's not a sprint, because it took a while for me to overcome many of my obstacles. But I'm so glad to be here today and have the ability to share my voice and my story for the world to hear.
And moms and dads all over the world are swooning right now because you're so delicious. Um, and and we love, we love you and we love what you say, and it gives us so much hope. So, but I want to talk about, what you were saying about working in the entertainment industry and how important it is for you to have accurate representation. So tell them a little bit about, what you've been doing. And this is not your first time you on Mrs. Fletcher.
Yeah.
You've done this for other things. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, I had the amazing opportunity to be reached out by HBO. They were working on a project in Brooklyn, which focused on one of the characters in that show actually being a nonverbal boy on the autism spectrum. And I jumped on that opportunity right away because the projects that I worked on in the past, Joyful Noise and Jane Wants a Boyfriend, focused on two individuals with autism who were really, really verbal, had great communication abilities, and kind of got the same thing that I usually get, which is, oh, you have autism, but you don't look like you have autism. And this project was really great because it gave me the opportunity to focus on another side of our autism spectrum. And I got to consult. It was a limited series on HBO, which aired last fall. And being able to make sure that this character, which was just this 5-year-old boy, nonverbal boy on the autism spectrum, making it as realistic as humanly possible. So it made me reflect a lot about my early days of being nonverbal. Even though I said my first word when I was 3, I still have countless journals and articles from my family that I was able to review while thinking about this character and making it as realistic as possible.
And such an important thing. And I believe that people can still be watching Mrs. Fletcher, because I think it's on HBO Demand and they should be watching it. Great show, great cast, and wonderful work that you did on that. And as you said, not the first time that you did that. But this is a very important thing that I'm glad that we're seeing some traction in the entertainment industry, that this, accuracy of representation is so important. And it's important in other fields too, but especially, it's called Autism-live, so we're going to talk about autism. And Kerry, I'm surprised, or maybe I just don't know. Have people approached you about doing some acting work and auditioning for some of the roles now that are out there?
It's really interesting because that has actually come up several times. I come from a background in theater when I was in high school, but it's not something that I actually considered for most of the projects that I was working on. But now I'm actually putting myself out there to potentially do a little bit more acting work. So we'll definitely see what's going on. I've received a few offers that I really can't talk too much about because I've signed NDAs, but hopefully there won't be. I might be able to talk about soon.
See, I started the show by saying I'm not psychic, but maybe I am, because that's a thing that should have happened. So, and I didn't know that it was happening, but I'm glad that I fished there. But we'll see, and you'll tell us later on when you can tell us. But Kerry, one of the things that we wanted to talk about with you, you are so amazing, and you post continuously, and I think people need to be following you because you have so many stories of hope, and you go and speak, and every time you speak you meet somebody, and I feel like you tell their story for them, which is just a really luscious thing to have in your feed on a regular basis. And Kerry is so modest, but he also has a wonderful charity that gives scholarships to young people on the spectrum going to college, and you can find out about all of that. So where should they go to be following you and to be getting that luscious feed of you meeting people and telling their stories?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started a nonprofit when I was actually just starting professional speaking for the first time, called KFM Making a Difference. So we've given out 68 scholarships for students with autism, partial scholarships with autism the past 8 years. So for people who want to stay in contact with me, I have a Facebook page called Kerry's Autism Journey, where one of the great things I get to do when we're not in the COVID-19 pandemic, and I can actually go back out speaking, is we bring a tripod and a camera and we sit down with self-advocates, and we sit down with them for 10 to 15 minutes at a time, and we ask them what they would like the world to know about them. So we have over 100 stories of self-advocates from across the globe who simply just want to share their stories. We believe that we've been given a huge opportunity to have a platform of over 200,000 Facebook followers, and giving an opportunity for these individuals to have a platform to share their stories was really important for me, because I still don't think we hear often enough from our self-advocate community from a large scale. I hear so many parents who have these large followings, and sometimes I get a little curious why self-advocates have as large of followings as many of the parents and experts in our field. And this is a big reason why I want to start that video series, to give them a little bit of my platform so they can continue to share their stories to as large an audience as possible. So Kerry's Autism Journey is my Facebook page. And then I also have all the Instagram, Twitter. I'm even on TikTok now, which I got peer pressured into. So
I got to check that out. And I got to say, I really appreciate what you were just talking about, because I get a fair amount of criticism here at Autism Live, and people will say to me, you know, you're a parent, you shouldn't be the person hosting this show. This should be hosted by somebody who's on the autism spectrum. And you know what? I don't disagree. But over the years, we have, you know, whenever possible, we have had self-advocates come in. We've offered them space, you know, to do their thing. And Kerry, I'm going to just put this out to you. Like, if you ever want space on Autism Live, it's yours. I remember years ago, before you became so big, we were asking you if you wanted to come in and do your own little segment on the show. But, you know, so in the meantime, I'm here. But if Kerry ever wants to take my place, I'm sure we can arrange for that to happen. But because I do feel like it's really important that we give self-advocates a voice. I find that a lot of times self-advocates are busy. And that's just the long and short of it. I think that sometimes as parents, we, when our kids are a little bit older, we have a little bit more free time because we're not doing the social thing that you guys are doing. And I think that that's part and parcel. You know, we've watched over the years, Live has watched a lot of, you know, different people. You're the only person who's still doing a show. And you do a show. Talk a little bit about, I don't know if you're still doing it now, but you from time to time are doing your show.
Right. So a few years ago, I started a show called The Different is Beautiful Show, in the hopes of, again, with this platform of self-advocates, making people realize that different is very beautiful in many aspects. It goes off Temple Grandin's Different Not Less, who I admire so much in our autism community. So I haven't been doing that show, unfortunately, just because of how crazy my schedule has been with public speaking. But it's definitely something I'm going to definitely try to pick back up maybe in the future once I get off the road and start to settle down, and hopefully a family at some point. So.
Well, all right. Since you brought that up,
I know.
I was thinking about all the things that I wanted to ask you, and I was like, oh, I should probably ask Kerry ahead of time. But one of the things that I keep thinking about in this COVID situation is all the young people and what the dating situation is like. And, you know, does this make you more want to move towards getting married and having babies? Or, you know, and you just brought it up, Kerry, so I'm just following up. Are there babies in the future?
So I'm dating, but I haven't. So I'm single and dating as of right now. So hopefully in the future that would be something. But I definitely would be open to it in the future. It's one of my life goals to get married, have a family. It's very interesting being in this whole COVID-19 situation in dating, because it's very dating apps. You lead up to it, and then you're like, oh wait, we can't go out on dates, and then it becomes a virtual FaceTime, and it's very odd in many aspects. So,
But I gotta say, Kerry, I said this at the beginning, there are gonna be some great love stories that come out of this, because
I
this
agree.
like I remember my grandparents having to write letters to each other, from my grandfather was at war and they had to write letters and they fell in love through letters. So I think that some really brilliant love stories are going to come out of this. And for people who are writers like you, there will be stories to tell, Kerry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because I have many mentees who are young adults who are desperately looking for relationships and love. And I know that they are at home and their routines have kind of been changed a little bit. So I've just been telling them, just really be on the lookout. You never know who might be quarantined at home as well, who might be wanting to start a conversation with somebody as incredible as some of my mentees.
So, which brings up our next point, which you are someone who is available to mentor people. So if people are watching, and they themselves are like, look, I need some help and support, or somebody who has a kiddo, what age range are you really wanting to mentor, Kerry?
So the age ranges that I've been working with most recently have been teenagers and young adults. So anywhere from the ages of 13 to 24 are usually the range that I've been working with, at least quite recently. But I've worked with older adults as well, even individuals who realize their autism and disability diagnosis in adulthood and wanting to understand more about the community. So it's been very mixed in nature, but 13 to 24, and they could go to my website at kerrymagro.com, where all my contact information is at. And if they reach out to me, I would love to start a conversation, because one of the things we talk about the whole dating aspect, but we also talk about mock interviews, how to get into a post-secondary education, how to apply for scholarship aid, et cetera, and so forth. So a very wide.
There's a lot there to talk about. So in this, we've sort of skirted around it in this COVID emergency with people secluding. I know that you've been a proponent that, there's some things that people can do to help themselves. Talk about the new normal and what you're advocating.
Yeah, no, I think first and foremost, we need our community to realize that even though this might seem like the new normal right now, we are going to go back to a place before physical distancing in the future. A lot of people who I've talked to are very just gloom and doom about all this. And from a mental health perspective, I think we need to realize that one day there will be a vaccine. One day there will be an opportunity for us to leave our homes, not have to worry about physical distancing, and to really be cognizant of that. Because right now it feels like a lot of people in our community are going stir crazy. I know I have gone that way several times in the past few weeks. So I think that's really important, but also really trying to find a daily schedule for themselves. That's really, really key in our community. We need every single young person, but also adults, to create that structure, to come to at least some place of normalcy. And that means having a visual schedule, but also educating younger children by social stories to tell them about COVID. I've been an advocate quite recently of making sure that individuals don't watch a lot of news right now to keep that very, very minimal in nature, because you hear a lot of statistics, a lot of facts from a lot of different people, and some of the times those things are not accurate. So making sure to keep watching the news to a minimal as well, while also building that daily schedule for yourself while this is going on.
Well, and that's all great advice, Carrie. And I wonder, because you brought up the whole thing about going stir crazy. And so I'm wondering, when you feel that way, what kinds of things are you doing to help yourself aside? Because the schedule's a great one, but what else in the moment when you're feeling antsy, what helps you?
Well, it's interesting that just a few minutes before our chat today, I was buying myself a miniature treadmill so I could work inside the house, which literally costs like $150 just so I could get my work in. Because I think one of the things that we unfortunately do is when we're in the house, we don't really think about the physical activity. And that's something that's so important for our mental health that sometimes we take for granted. Short-term and long-term retention, boost once you have 30 minutes of cardio activity every single day. And it's the same thing with depression down when you're actually that. So I think that has been a really important aspect for me, especially since this quarantine began. But then also just making sure that I avoid a long period of screen time, because that can make anyone go crazy. Looking at the countless emails, looking at how many Zoom webinars I can put in place for our community during World Autism Month, trying to make sure that I take some time to actually read a book, actually talk on the phone with my family. All these things are tremendously important, so I don't deal with eye strain and dealing with too much activity when it comes to the screen time.
Yeah, even when it's productive screen time, like you were saying, like planning webinars, sometimes you got to step away from it. Because I know
Yep.
it seems like there's two different worlds here. That my husband is home for the quarantine and he's not working. Some of the time he works, like, because he does voiceover stuff, and so he might work an hour a week, right? Whereas I'm working overtime. Like, we're working constantly here, and because it takes a lot. And so our lives are totally different, but we both have to be taking time away from the screen time, because it's not good for either of us. Whether for him it's Netflix, or for me it's being here with you guys. Everybody has to take a break. But you brought up reading as a thing to do, and I see that you've got one of your books over your shoulder. Let's talk about some, because people need to be reading, and why not read some of the things that you have written, which are available on your site, kerrymagro.com, correct?
Correct. Yes. And I honestly didn't even realize that was there. This is my old MacBook Pro from 2011 that doesn't work anymore. So it's become a placeholder to put books and magazines.
Well,
And
bring it forward. Show people the cover, because that's you when you were a bambino, wasn't it? Or
yeah,
is it just on the screen? Is it the physical book?
it was
Yeah.
it was me back in the day when I was a very, very young kid, when I was about 2.5, 3 years old, when I was still nonverbal. But my books are available on my website at kerrymagro.com/books. I've written a book on self-advocacy called Defining Autism from the Heart, Autism and Falling in Love, to help our loved ones go about going into relationships. And then my children's book, I Will Light It Up Blue, which came out last year, about two twins on the autism spectrum. So I have another book that I'm planning on releasing at some point, hopefully in the fall of this year, depending on how this COVID situation goes. On college for those on the autism spectrum.
Well, timely. I've got a kiddo who's finishing his junior year, so I'm gonna need that one.
Awesome.
It's wonderful. He's fabulous. He's doing really well, and he's so far, knock on wood, this quarantine is not bothering him. He's doing his classes, and I have pressed him into work. He keeps having to because he wants to study film, Kerry. And so we've made a couple of videos that he has been the person shooting them and editing them. So I've put him to work. And so as long as he's busy, he's a happy camper. Okay. And so Kerry, I haven't asked you, are you living in New York right now?
So I'm in Hoboken right now. It's
still kind of the hotbed of where stuff is happening, right? Are you safe?
Absolutely. No, I am perfectly safe. I live in a big apartment complex where we have all the needs, Grubhub, Seamless, everything we could ever need. And the groceries are very, very easy to come by, thankfully, because I know that's not in a lot of areas right now. So yeah, I've just been here and just weighing it out. And yeah, hopefully we'll be through this situation soon. But I know a lot of my friends in New York are having a very challenging time right now. And also New Jersey, we have the second highest diagnosis rate of COVID, I believe, right now.
Well, we want you to stay safe. Now, you mentioned normally you're out speaking everywhere. You would have had a very busy month. There's no way we would have had time. We would have had time, but you wouldn't have had time to do this if this month had played out like we thought it was going to play out. But I hear you saying that you're planning all these virtual webinars and things. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, sure. It's been really challenging because during the month of April, I was supposed to have 21 in-person talks. April is the biggest month of revenue for me as a professional speaker because it's World Autism Month. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of learning curves where a lot of groups were very against going to do their conferences via Zoom, their live events via like Google Hangout, Facebook Live, et cetera, and so forth. So most of my events got either postponed or canceled for the month. And it really made me have to recreate the wheel a lot in terms of my public speaking, which led to me just really reaching out to all my old contacts and really realizing that a lot of people were struggling because they some form of World Autism Month offense, but really didn't know how. And having a background in educational technology leadership, which was my doctorate, it gave me the opportunity to really look at how we can provide as many webinars during the month of April. So at least we can salvage World Autism Month even a little bit. So I have been doing Facebook Lives and Zoom webinars almost since the first week of April, and I still have ones lined up for the rest of April and May. And one of the great things that we're doing is we're actually doing a free webinar because we know that the unemployment rates are continuing to rise in the United States. So we're actually doing a weekly Zoom webinar for individuals in our community just to give them that education at this time and providing certificates of completion. So at least if somebody's looking to potentially get back into a workforce after this is over, they have a little bit something that they can add to the resumes.
And when and where are those? How do people register?
Sure. So I post all of them on my Facebook page at Kerry's Autism Journey. So we've been doing topics on navigating virtual learning. Our next one is how to succeed in school for a student with a learning disability. And then our final one at the end of the month is going to be on the 4 areas into adulthood. So looking at guardianship, employment, post-secondary, and housing. So busy.
Yeah. Okay, so we can check all that out on your Facebook page. You're incredible, and you know I know this is I know that this is annoying that I'm going to ask this, but I know people are writing in and they want to know, like, you seem so amazing. Are there areas that you still struggle in that are autism related?
Yes. So the biggest thing is transition difficulties and ironically enough, routine changes. And those are 2 of my biggest struggles to this day, along with definitely having a few challenges with social interaction at times. I can feel very overwhelmed, for example, if I'm at a big cocktail party where I know that for 3 hours, I'm going to be shaking hands, kissing babies, speaking to as many people as humanly possible. And that can feel very overwhelming for me. So those are definitely some of the big challenges that I still have to this day. And then just the whole routine change has been, it was very jarring at first, but now I'm kind of settling in.
So when you've got to go to a big event like a cocktail party, and you gotta do the whole it's like at someday you do need to go into politics, Kerry. I'm just saying. After you do the movie star thing, you need to go into politics because I'll vote for you.
Absolutely.
Right? So you got to do that whole meet and greet, kiss the babies sort of thing. Not in this emergency, right? But no. Is there a ritual that you do beforehand to help you to be able to handle that? And is there something that you do afterwards to sort of decompress?
So the way I usually start out is I really just try to think about who are the major people I need to talk to at the events. So if I'm going to speak an event and there's a reception afterwards, knowing which people I'm probably going to be with at that time, who I'm going to be talking to the most, just because I like to be prepared for any situation, because it brings me to a place where if I'm prepared before I go into a situation, I'm much more calm and I'm much more able to be myself, not mask any certain behaviors as well. So that's definitely the big thing. And then afterwards, I definitely do like a glass of red wine after any type of event as kind of just a way of relaxing, but also just decompressing, being by myself. Watching sports is still the go-to. I try to find any type of sport and I try to just go to. That's a big thing.
Well, and we have to say, because you look quite young, but obviously you're Dr. Kerry Magro. You have a PhD. He is definitely of drinking age, so it's totally legal. Because you look a little young, Kerry. I don't want people writing in saying what's happening here. This is Dr. Kerry Magro, and he is definitely of legal age that he can enjoy a glass of red wine. No letters, please. So Kerry, we're just about out of time. Why don't we go through, tell them the Facebook page to go to again and your website again.
Sure. So it's Kerry's Autism Journey, which could just be found at facebook.com/specialcommunity. My website is kerrymagro.com if you're interested in learning more about the films and the books that I've worked on. And then just reach out to me anytime if you're looking for consulting, but also a Zoom webinar during the month of April. We've been working with businesses, schools, and community events during the entire month. It's been really, really great.
And same place, where do we go if we want to talk to you about mentoring, either for ourselves or for our kiddos?
Sure. So you could go to my website, kerrymagro.com, but you're also feel free to contact me via my email at any time at kerrymagro@gmail.com. We receive just a little over 200 emails a day from people in our community, and we try to get to as many as we possibly can because we realize it takes a village, and we want our community to not feel alone and just remember that there are people out there looking out for them.
And many people are writing in and saying, thank you so much for being here. But one in particular that jumps out at me, really good to hear and get information from this session. My son is 3 years, quite a happy child, verbal, but cannot tell what he needs most of the time. He was diagnosed at 2 years of age. And again, Kerry, I just know that like being able to see you, sometime I got to get your mother on the show. Like I don't know if she's at all interested, but I just feel like we would want to ask her 1,000,008 questions, but being able to see you, hear you, be with you, love you, gives us all hope. Because you are an incredible young man, and I think any of us would be so proud to claim you, and it gives us all kinds of hope for the direction that our kiddos are going in. So thank you for all that you do.
Well, thank you, Shannon, for having me on. And I'm trying to get my mom into public speaking, so I'll definitely be talking to her about.
Hook me up. We've got to get Ms. Magro on the show to give us the 411 about all the things that she did. I know you're your own person and you are, but let's face it, we always, when we meet a mensch and you're a mensch, we always want to know, okay, what did the mom prioritize so that we can grow mensches too. Kerry, just love you so much. We are totally out of time now, but come back to us whenever you want. We will make airtime for you. I'm not kidding.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. And thank you for having me on, and be safe.
You too. Keep us posted. All right. We love you, Kerry. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.